With no money to buy his daughter a present on Christmas Eve, this snow sculptor hand-carved a snow sculpture for his daughter. Yet the very night he showed this gift to his daughter, it started snowing heavily out of nowhere. He comforted his disappointed daughter beside him. Then he hurried back to the worksite and began selecting ice blocks anew. Meanwhile, the daughter, who stayed behind, noticed a trail of footprints on the ground. Out of curiosity, she walked deep into the forest. Soon, a beautiful figure appeared ahead. She was thinly dressed and wore a crown. Surprisingly, her face was somewhat similar to the snow sculpture from last night. After asking, she discovered the woman not only didn't remember her own name, but also had no clue at all why she was there. The young girl, who firmly believed in magic, seeing the woman's strange outfit, immediately wondered if the woman might be the snow sculpture that had collapsed inexplicably. The little girl took her home and treated her to hot steaming cocoa. Once she was sure the woman had nowhere to go, she took the liberty of naming her. Then she ran outside and called out to her father, who was about to resume carving the snow sculpture. She told him that a friend of hers was coming to stay. At first, Jack assumed it was just one of his daughter's classmates coming over, until he saw Annie, who was ethereal and graceful. She needs a place to stay for a few weeks. I think she can stay here. He didn't lower his guard just because she had an angelic appearance. A strange adult had suddenly approached his daughter. It just didn't add up, no matter how he thought about it. Therefore, the little girl had already prepared an explanation. She explained that Annie was the new art teacher at her school. Since art wasn't a core subject, she didn't teach often. It was only natural that her father had never seen her. With that, he then led his daughter into the bedroom. He stressed how suspicious Annie's identity was. In Jack's view, the reason his daughter had agreed to let her stay in their home was that she had been bewitched. As a newly arrived teacher at the school, despite facing difficulties, she had no reason to turn to a young and immature student for help. Since he had to work during the day, he often leaves his daughter at home alone. To prevent accidents, he still decided to drive Annie away. Even at this point, the little girl still hadn't told her father what she suspected, because such things were too bizarre to believe. Knowing her father, she was well aware that her father would never believe it. Even if she kept her suspicions to herself, she recreated the facts exactly as they were, and she was sure the final outcome would be the same as now. A strange adult suddenly appears out of nowhere in the freezing cold, and this would also put the father on high alert. He had just comforted his daughter, then it suddenly dawned on him. After a brief silence, gazing at the frail figure outside the window, Jack turned to look at his daughter. Is she really a good person? She's super nice. Are you sure? Yes, I'm absolutely sure. After a brief hesitation, he went out and stopped Annie, who had no idea where to go. Finally, the little girl got her wish and had Annie stay at their home. Actually, Jack wasn't unwilling to help. It's just that as a single father, he was absolutely responsible for his daughter's safety. They made a few simple arrangements for her. Then the father and daughter suddenly realized, because for years there had been no adult woman in the house, there simply were no clothes suitable for Annie. Given the family's already modest means, Jack intended to go to his room to fetch his clothes. But unexpectedly, his daughter beat him to it, offering up the pocket money she had saved since childhood. As the three of them reached a fork in the road, Jack suddenly remembered that they still needed to pick up a few things for the house. So, Annie and his daughter went to the women's clothing store together. During this time, from the little girl, she learned that things at home were not looking good, and occasionally, bank notices demanding payment would arrive. Annie didn't really understand money, but she could feel how tough life was for the father and daughter. For some time afterward, warmth filled the home they shared. It was inevitable that their paths would cross. At first, Annie was still a little uneasy, afraid that Jack would drive her away again. Jack, too, was worried that Annie might be a villain with ulterior motives. This suspicion and unease, with the passage of time, increased communication, and frequent interaction, gradually began to fade. The two of them would discuss the little girl's future together. They would study literary works together. They would attend school-organized development activities together. Annie, worried that her identity might be exposed, was on tenterhooks the entire time at school. However, with the little girl's help, everything went off without real danger. For this ice princess who suddenly appeared in her life, the little girl was filled with affection for her. She was determined to spark a romance between Annie and her father. So she'd invite Annie and her father along on almost every outdoor outing, then she'd make an excuse and slip away, leaving the two of them alone together. Over time, gradually, their conversations were no longer confined to everyday life and routine matters. They also began to open up about their past and innermost thoughts. Even though Annie, as a snow sculpture, had always been only a listener, in her conversation with Jack, she learned the reason for the family's debt. 3 years ago, his wife was diagnosed with cancer. Despite exhausting their life savings and borrowing from friends and relatives, they still couldn't escape the fate of being parted forever. Shortly after that, Jack, while distracted at work, injured his palm. Struggling to pay for his medical treatment, as a result, his palms still bear old wounds. Carving snow sculptures is agonizing for him every time. Luckily, the debts are nearly settled. He intends to quit after finishing his current project. With this payment, he'll clear his debts and find a steady job. He'll spend the rest of his days with his daughter. Opening up your heart is the best way to deepen a relationship. His daughter witnessed it all. Considering his current miserable situation, Jack was in no mood for romance at all. Crush or not, some things just don't go as you wish. Her attitude towards him and whether he can give her the life she wants, these are all matters Jack should reflect on. But knowing Annie was the daughter of Shwedyao, she simply couldn't sit still. That night, she presented the beautifully dressed Annie to her father and set the two up on a date. They strolled along the streets together, ate at street food stalls, and sat on a bench to plan their future together. But just as Jack went out to get her an ice cream, a mysterious old man appeared before Annie. He immediately revealed Annie's true identity, then he warned her, "Time is running out for you. You must tell Jack your true origin, and make him truly accept you in his heart. Otherwise, at midnight tomorrow, you will turn back into an ice sculpture." It was only then that Annie remembered she isn't human. She is fundamentally different from Jack. With Christmas just around the corner, Jack, responsible for the town party's ice sculptures, started working extra hours. Annie first relayed the old man's instructions to her daughter. The little girl poured out her reluctance to part with Annie. Then she promised to help Annie convince her father. Uncertain of what lay ahead, the two hugged each other tightly. Everything that came next rested entirely on Jack. After a busy day, he sat across from Annie and shared the fruits of his day's labor. Annie, usually all smiles, was completely out of character. Noticing Jack was nodding off, considerate Annie opted not to reveal the truth to him right then. Instead, she put it off until the next day. However, since Jack was occupied with work the whole day, Annie never got the opportunity to catch him at home. This postponed confession nearly led to a mistake she'd regret forever. Just before the town's Christmas ball began, Jack ran into the principal of his daughter's school backstage. As they talked, he mentioned Annie's name. Seeing the perplexed expression on the principal's face, Jack explains. "It's the new art teacher at school. Our only new teacher this year is Charlie Bennett." The certainty in the headmistress's voice sent a chill down Jack's spine. He immediately found his daughter in the crowd and asked. Hearing the truth, a rare angry expression appeared on Jack's face. The more the little girl tried to explain things for Annie, the more Jack resented Annie. As he saw it, Annie had falsely claimed to be the ice princess to get close to his daughter. This was nothing short of abduction. Though he didn't know her intentions, Jack was now convinced that Annie definitely had ulterior motives. Otherwise, why would she deceive a young and naive child? Clearly, he would never believe such an absurd tale as an ice sculpture coming to life. After asking, she discovered the woman not only didn't remember her own name, but also had no clue at all why she was there. The young girl, who firmly believed in magic, seeing the woman's strange outfit, immediately wondered if the woman. Tears welled up in her eyes. Annie knew all too well that Jack's distrust sealed the fate of this ending. There was no point in staying any longer. Watching the crowd celebrate the festival, Annie slipped away quietly. After who knows how long, as Jack basked in the crowd's praise, he was suddenly reminded of something. The snow sculpture looked incredibly real. How did you bring him to life? The scene of the ice sculpture shattering earlier also flashed through his mind. He thought back to many little details in their interactions, and it suddenly dawned on Jack. His daughter's confession, Annie's sudden appearance and bizarre outfit, no matter how unbelievable it seemed, pointed to the fact that Annie had once been a statue. Just then, unable to find her daughter, Annie hurried over. The blizzard didn't break it, did it? No, magic turned her into a human. His idea was confirmed by his daughter. They rushed back immediately. Even though they were going as fast as they could, it was clearly too late. Annie removed her red dress, revealing the green dress underneath. She determinedly returned to where she had stood before. By the time the father and daughter rushed over, she had already turned back into an ice sculpture. Witnessing this, Jack was overcome with remorse. The little girl refused to accept the truth. Tearfully, she flung herself onto the icy sculpture. Annie is gone. What stands before them now is nothing but a statue. However reluctant they are to accept the fact. The truth is right there before them. But just as the two, disappointed, turned to leave, the ice sculpture inexplicably glowed blue. Then it slowly broke into pieces. Noticing something was wrong, the two rushed back. When the ice sculpture glowed blue again, Annie miraculously returned. The power of love and trust, like the light of dawn, pierced through the heavy gloom of doubts and misunderstandings. This story is a heartfelt tribute to the beautiful emotions in human nature. Life can often be as harsh as a freezing winter, filled with hardships and uncertainties, just like the debts, pain, and loneliness that Jack's family faced. But Annie's arrival was like the first spring breeze in winter, quietly awakening the warmth and hope that had long lain dormant deep in their hearts. And this hope, nourished by love, overcame seemingly insurmountable obstacles, the predicaments of reality, differences in identity, and unfounded suspicions. When Jack let go of his stubbornness and chose to believe the incredible truth, when the little girl held fast to her pure adoration for Annie and fought for her at all costs, when Annie bravely confronted her destiny and waited for the moment of acceptance, they all speak to us that love's magic surpasses all. It melts the ice and snow. It revives life anew. It mends broken hearts. This Christmas, they received not only Annie's homecoming, but also a deeper insight into the essence of life. In the face of love, nothing is impossible. As long as we carry courage within and embrace the unexpected warmth and wonders, then life will bloom with dazzling brilliance, shine on forever, and light up every step forward.